Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Dominic, I'm the host of the Android Factory. Last episode we went ahead and built out this search screen, so as the user puts something in the search bar here, we are hitting some endpoints, getting some data and displaying it on screen. And in today's episode here we're going to talk about these filters that we see at the top. We can go ahead and kind of disable them and we see that things kind of just disappear and then we can just reappear, animate quite nicely as we click all of the different filters at the top, kind of just changing their state of being enabled or not. So we're going to go ahead and revert these changes and build it back in real time. All right, and we reverted the search screen here, so we're just displaying the characters here in a list. On the right here, I did take a screenshot of the emulator so that we can kind of build it back to that. And let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to split this right and move. We're going to close that and give ourselves some room to operate with over here. And first things first, we're going to start with our view model here. As we get started, slap that like button, subscribe if you are brand new. And we're going to take a look at our screen state here, specifically inside of our content. We have the user query and the results here of all the characters that we're displaying to them. We're going to go ahead and add in something I'm just going to call a filter state here, which is going to be a new object here. We're going to go ahead and define this as a data class filter state. And this is going to encapsulate two pieces of data. So if we look at the screenshot over here, we could see that we have the different statuses that correlate to all the different, the unique statuses that all of these characters have here. And then also their selection status. So what we can do here is define a list of all our statuses. And just like that here, we'll have our statuses, a list of character status. This is the data class that backs everything that is either alive, dead, or unknown here. And then we're also going to have another list here of our, let's call them active statuses. And we're going to rename that to selected statuses here. But now we basically have all of our statuses that relate to this screen, and then we have a list of all of the ones that are currently selected here. And so then we can kind of filter our list down that we display of all of our results based on if each character's character status is a part of the selected statuses here. And as one final note on this data class here, the image has this little circle in the top left here, green, yellow, and red, and that correlates to the active dead or active unknown and dead in that order. So that's kind of how these filters are actually operating. We see here that we have an issue because we've updated our state here, but we have not necessarily fulfilled this information here when we're updating our state. So we're going to just simply go ahead and say filter state. So in here we can define all of our different statuses here, and this needs to be a unique list of all the statuses of our characters. Right, so we're going to go ahead and let's just say all statuses here is going to be equal to our characters.map. We can pull out their status here, and then this is just going to be a list of the same size of however many characters we have, right? But realistically, there's only 3 statuses that we pull from here, so we're going to convert this to a set that is then going to filter out all of the duplicates. We can convert it back to a list really quickly, and then we can also sort it by it.displayName, which will put it in alphabetical order here between alive, dead, and then unknown as well. So these are all of our statuses. We can go ahead and put this here. And then our selected statuses in this case is also just going to be all the statuses. So basically when we pull something back from the API, we are going to say here are the statuses, and then here are all of them. They are all selected, so don't filter anybody out of the list basically. With this, there's one other function inside of our view model that we're going to have to create here, and it's going to be a way for the user to actually toggle the active statuses inside of our state here. So we're going to create a function just called toggle status. This is going to accept our character status, and internally here we can simply just say UI state.update. And because we are dealing with our screen state, that is a sealed class which has multiple different options, so to speak. So we need to define our current state as the casting it as content, because if that is null, we want to just return at update it. So basically we don't want to do anything if our current status is not content, which it really shouldn't be, but we're just kind of casting it. Now moving forward, we know that we are within content here, so we can fetch all of our active statuses. So let's just say current selected statuses. this is going to be equal to our current state, filter state dot selected statuses. And now basically the user is toggling a particular status. So what we can do is we can simply say, well, let's assign this to a new variable, but we could say new statuses here going to be equal to our current selected statuses dot contains the actual status that they're trying to modify. It's going to be the current selected statuses minus the status. Otherwise, we are going to say current selected statuses plus our status. And then simply here, we are going to return a new version of this state where the filtered state has the new statuses selected inside of the selected statuses field. Right, so if this is a little confusing, just to break it down for you, we're basically removing a status from the current selected statuses if it already exists there, basically if it's already enabled. And then otherwise we are adding that status to a list if it does not exist in that list already. So we're really just at the end of the day toggling this status's state inside of the selected statuses list. As a reminder, all this code is available on GitHub if you do want to check it out yourself here, but now we've done everything we need, right? We have a function to toggle our status, we have gone ahead and defined a new state here, and we have this information available to us. So now it's really just a compose exercise to get this back together. So scrolling down over here into our content section here, now inside of our search screen content composable, we have all the information we need. Taking a look at our emulator, or the screenshot of our emulator over here on the right, we seem to have modified this text element a little bit, which we'll do in the future. But then we have these, three elements that kind of map to the different statuses that we have set in our state. So quite simply here, we are going to say content.filterState, and then we have all of our statuses, right? Not just the selected ones. We want to iterate over all of our statuses, and we will go ahead and call for each on all of them. And inside of here, we're going to create our actual composable. But we do need a few pieces of information about how to display them, right? So the first thing we're going to need here is the information about is this thing selected or not, and that is going to be equal to our content.filterState.selectedStatuses.contains this particular status, right? So now this is a Boolean that we can leverage mainly around the coloring of the actual UI element that goes between that light blue and a gray, right? But now we kind of have the understanding, is this status selected? And so as using that as an example, we can just simply say, I don't know, let's go with content color. And we will say if this is selected, we're going to set this color to be the Rick action, else I believe I just used a color.light gray to kind of give it that, grayed out feel. For simplicity, we are just going to use a text element to get the functionality working, and then we're going to go ahead and build out that actual UI element that we see there that has the 34 alive on the left and all that kind of stuff. But first, we're just going to simply get something on screen so that we can see things working here. So we're going to go ahead and have our status.displayName as text here. We have a white color, that's fine. We have padding. Yep, I mean, all this is going to change anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The only thing that we want to do here is we want to apply a clickable on this. And here we're going to have to bubble up some user interaction here. So we're just going to say on status clicked, and we will pass in the individual status that we are iterating over. This obviously does not exist here, but we are going to add this into our composable quite simply. This is going to be a lambda that accepts a character status right here, and then it returns to us nothing. Now we obviously have this part of our code yelling at us because we are not adding in this lambda here, but we can then do something quite nice here where we say on status clicked equals our view model, the search view model. We can reference a particular function here, and this is kind of a little bit of a hack, but a pretty nice little syntactic sugar that we have going on here. Because this is a function that takes in a character status, and because this is a lambda that passes out a character status, we can simply reference the function inside of the view model because the declaration of this lambda matches the declaration of this function as far as what it needs for input. That's just a cool way, instead of calling, search ViewModel.toggle status and passing in the status, we can simply just reference, a function pointer more or less, right into this guy. So just a little cleaner. And so with that change, we're going to go ahead and give this a run here. We're going to type something in, and then we are going to see here, cool, we have something in the UI, which is great, but we don't necessarily have it created the way that we want. However, if we go ahead and click alive, simply nothing happens. And that is because we are not filtering our items down here inside of our lazy column. In here, we're going to say our content.filter state.selected statuses contains the status of the particular character. And I know this is getting a little crammed in here, so I'm going to go ahead and just remove this from over here. We're going to go over here. So now we are basically filtering down what we're putting into the lazy column based on if it is a part of the selected statuses, if that particular character is applicable for the statuses that are selected. So we see here we have a green icon to denote alive. If we go ahead and click that, we obviously see them disappear. And if we get rid of unknown again, then that was the yellow one, and all we have left is the red one's dead, and now we actually have nothing left. We can go ahead and put them back. So we do see the functionality working, even though it is not necessarily the most beautiful design. So let's go ahead and clean a few things up here so that we can actually get back to that state that we care about. So first things first, we have all of these elements on top of one another because we're inside of a column, and we're simply just iterating over each status, adding it in. This makes a whole bunch of sense. So realistically, what we need to do here is we need to wrap this inside of a row, and rerunning there and also removing the fill max width modifier on our text, we start to resemble what we should actually see here. But taking a look at our screenshot, we have a little bit more going on here. So first of all, we have the count, we have the name there, and then we have this little element going on. So actually what we're going to do is create a row inside of a row because we're going to want to have those two text views next to one another. So inside of here, instead, we're going to take a particular row. On this row, we are going to have a modifier here where we are going to say, all right, I made that screenshot a little bigger there, so hopefully it comes through better on the video, but we're going to apply a border onto this the row here that's going to contain everything. We're going to have a width of 1 dp. We are going to have a color equal to the content color, right? Because we're going to want that to switch based upon if it is selected or not. And then we're going to have a shape here with our rounded corner shape of 8 dp. Inside of the row, we have a little bit of spacing here. So we're going to have our horizontal arrangement. This is going to be spaced by, I don't know, let's call it 12 dp for now. We can tweak all these values in a little bit. I'll paste this text element back in here, and we're going to go ahead and paste another one. So our text right here on the left inside of those pills is going to not be the display name, but it's basically going to be how many characters relate to this particular status. So what we can do here is we can just say count equals our content.results.filter, and this will be where the status equals this particular status. And then we are just going to call .size on that. And that will go ahead and just filter things down to exactly what we need. We're going to then call count.toString because that is an integer on there. Our color is not going to be white here. This is just going to be the Rick primary. We don't need this clickable anymore on that part of things, but we do want it on the entire row there. So we don't need the individual element being selected. We're going to go ahead and set the background color equal to our content color, right? Which reacts based upon if it is selected or not, as a friendly reminder. And then fixing up this one over here, we're just going to change our content color to be the color of the text. Again, we don't necessarily need this information here. Text align center, that looks good. And we don't need a background on that. So let's just go ahead and rerun things and see where we're at. And coming back to life here, it's slowly starting to resemble it a little bit. So let's go ahead and clean this up. First of all, our outer row is going to benefit from a modifier here specific to the padding of horizontal equals 16 dp. It seems like I applied the horizontal arrangement to the incorrect row here. So we're just going to apply that there. That should space things out quite nicely. And then we just need to worry about a little bit of padding here. So why don't we just remove the padding on these text elements. And rerunning here, we do get a little bit closer here. So we're just going to continue on. Obviously, we are going to have to clip to that rounded corner shape as well so that we stop that bleeding. Let's see, then our text inside of here, we're going to just set a padding of, let's just go with 4 dp. And the actual display name there that we see alive, dead, and unknown, we can go ahead and apply a padding of that. with a horizontal of, I don't know, let's say 60p, and let's see how that looks now. All right, and we're slowly inching closer here, but let's just go ahead and check in on functionality here. We see that when we click it, we are watching things disappear, which is great, but it is happening pretty abruptly here, right? There's not that animation that we had earlier on, even though it is functioning how it should here. So one thing that we can do to fix this is actually inside of our lazy column, there is a beautiful little thing that we can apply to anything inside of there, which is the simple animate item modifier, and all our problems are solved. Well, almost. In order for this modifier to actually work, we do need to inform it on a little bit more information here as it relates to the items function that we're leveraging. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and I'm just going to call this filtered results here, save that as a variable. And one thing that we can see in this tooltip is that we can actually apply back our items here, the filtered results. But one thing we do need to add in here is the key lambda, which passes in each character to you. And you're going to have to then call character.id or some way of referencing each item uniquely here so that the list can actually know, or the lazy column in this case, can actually know which element has changed and therefore which element to animate. So if we go ahead and rerun things, we can go ahead and click on the alive or the unknown, and now we see that these fields are actually animating as we would expect. Except there is this one nasty bug here that I have not been able to figure out. If you guys know the answer, please let me know. But as we see here, this item right here is an unknown status for this character. If this character or this cell, whatever, this item is partially off the screen, it actually bleeds through the bounds of the lazy column and creates that jarring, jumping experience and whatnot. So it's been a little interesting. If anyone knows what's going on here, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I have not been able to figure it out, but I haven't really looked too deeply into it. But the good news is this key right here parameter and then the modifier of animate item, this has replaced the animate item placement modifier as I guess newer versions of Compose came out. So it's pretty good out of the box, but again, there's that one little nasty gotcha. So let me know down below if you know what the deal is. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. I really appreciate it if you can comment or like the video to help me out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit more compose work here to kind of get it closer to what we see over here inside of this screenshot the way that it was, because it definitely looks a little bit nicer. But I just gotta fight with compose a tiny bit here, and functionally speaking, this thing does work. Aside from the filters themselves looking not exactly how we want, we see also here this text element is pretty large. So we're just gonna change gears really quickly here, and we're going to go ahead and change some things around. Our font size definitely does not need to be that big, and then I believe here our padding is also messing with some things. We don't necessarily want to fill max width anymore, and we do have that text align center, which is no longer relevant if we want it left justified. But the one thing we are going to have to do here is set our start padding to be 16 dp so that we see it pushed off the screen there to kind of match everything along the edge. And we do see that it starts to look a little bit better there. We do notice a little bit extra padding at the top though, and I believe that's coming from the search bar here. So in order to clean that up, we need to head all the way up here, take a look at the row that kind of holds everything for the search bar here, and right now we just have a padding of 16 dp, but realistically we don't need that on every edge here. We do need it on most, but I believe the bottom padding is kind of throwing that off a tiny bit, which is why it's pushing down our text element. We can definitely use a little bit of padding, but we don't need that full 16, so something like 8 is probably a little bit better. Perfect, rerunning, and now that starts to look a little bit better, and we just have to clean up these last few items down here. Honestly, I think this is just an issue ordering our modifiers here as I saw that. Now if we just go ahead and change around padding after we apply the background color on that leftmost text element, things start to get a little bit better. And we just see here that our one other text element is not necessarily aligned here vertically, so we can just quite simply set the vertical alignment on our row like that. That houses everything. And just kidding, it's the wrong row. Sorry about that. We'll put it right here. And rerunning things, we should be all good at this point. It does look like that. Taking a look at our screenshot here, we do have a little bit of room in between the 68 results and our filters, so we can simply just add padding anywhere here. Start there. Maybe we also add in bottom padding of something like 4 dp for that text element. Rerunning things here, this should push things apart, and that starts to look exactly like how it was. So there we go. Just reordering some modifiers made this come together and look really, really good. So that is quite an easy fix here. But again, we have that nasty bug here of elements kind of just freaking out when they're not entirely off screen here. So let me know down below if you know what the answer is there. But other than that, we do have all of this functionality working out perfectly here. We can see that it kind of operates no matter who is, what the results are and whatnot. And with that, I'm going to cut the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.